Cream that you can rub onto their ear. No more struggle.
Damn pickle with, This damn pickle, aka SWAT, of Team Rebel Wolves. Basically I'm talking about Senate Bill 798, which is basically mandating that all airsoft weapons, or imitation firearms as they put it, need to be painted a specific color. There's a couple major issues that I have with the bill. First of all, you know, there's a lot of people out there posting up their responses to it, and I pretty much agree with everything that they're saying. You know, I'm just throwing my own 2 cents into it. But first of all, you know, what we do in airsoft is not much different than is done in paintball. The biggest difference is that, you know, instead of paintball where they've got this big huge hopper up on top of it, and, you know, this big huge barrel on the end where the ball comes out, you know, our weapons actually look very realistic. And that's what we like. We like the realism in the military sense. You know, if I'm using an M4, it looks like an M4. If I'm using an AK-47, it looks like an AK-47. But again, that's also part of where the problem with this whole law comes from, is that they do look very realistic. Now, the problem with that, though, is there's already laws on the books that say that airsoft weapons have to come with an orange tip. Okay? That's already out there, so that a police officer will know that it's an airsoft weapon and not a real weapon. Okay? There's a couple problems with that. First of all, this whole, you know, thing got started by an incident down in Southern California where apparently 3 kids were playing in the middle of the street with airsoft. Or with airsoft weapons. That already in itself is really a dumb thing to do. You don't want to be playing with airsoft out in the middle of the public where they're not going to know that they're, you know, airsoft and not real. Someone's going to, you know, sooner or later call the cops saying, you know, hey, there's 3 kids out here with guns. So a cop rolls up and sees 3 people holding guns in the middle of the street. Okay, what is the cop going to do? His first instinct is going to be get out of the squad car and, you know, draw down on him. You know, put him at gunpoint. That's what this officer did. 2 of the kids dropped their weapons. Okay? Nothing happened to those 2 kids. Nothing. They did not get shot. They did not get hurt in any way, shape, or form. But the 3rd one was stupid. Okay? I'm sorry if you're the parent to that kid and you're seeing this video. I'm sorry, but your kid was stupid. You don't pull a gun, whether it's real or not, on a police officer. Okay? The officer did what he's trained to do. He had a weapon pulled on him, and he fired. Okay? He shot the kid. It's tragic, yes. But is it the police officer's fault? No. Is it the weapon's fault? No. It doesn't matter how realistic that gun looks. It's not the gun's fault. It was the actions of that kid that got him shot. Okay? The other thing is, it doesn't even have to be a gun. there are plenty of cases where someone pulled a cell phone in a manner that reflected looking like the drawing of a weapon, and a police officer shot him. Okay? It's the act and the manner of which it's done. That's what causes a problem, not the way the gun looks. Because like I said, cases of cell phones, even coffee cups, there are so many different things that police officers have drawn down and pulled the trigger on that turned out not even being close to a gun. So it's not the gun itself. Now this brings me back to the point I was making earlier about the orange tip. Orange tips are put on there so that a police officer would recognize it's an airsoft weapon and, should prevent any, misunderstandings about it. Well, the problem is, again, when a cop sees that weapon, he's not going to look for an orange tip. Even more to the point, there are directives from Homeland Security right now that are telling officers to ignore the orange tip because criminals have already realized this and they are painting their real guns with an orange tip, trying to give them a better advantage against law enforcement. Okay, so the orange tip doesn't make any difference. So what does this law do? It says that the whole gun has to be painted a certain color, or there's specific colors. There's like pink, there's green. There's a couple different colors that they're saying that they want to paint the guns. Again, what is to stop a criminal from painting his entire gun green, or pink, or red, or whatever color they see fit that prescribes within the law as far as what an airsoft or imitation firearm is supposed to be painted? Again, they're going to be doing that to try and get one up on the law enforcement officer. Law enforcement officers are not stupid. They don't care what color the gun is. They are still going to draw down and they are still going to fire if a pink gun is pulled on them. They are going to. That is what they're trying to do. If they stop and think before they pull the trigger, they will end up coming home in a pine box one time. And that, we don't want that. This bill really is not going to do anything to solve the problem. It really will not. It is a tragic incident that happened. But realistically, can you legislate it so that it will never happen again? No. Because it is the actions, not the item in hand, that causes this kind of reaction from a law enforcement officer. They, again, like I said, a cell phone. It has happened with the cell phone. It has happened with the coffee cup. It has happened with all kinds of other instruments that do not even resemble a gun, but the manner in which it was pulled out resembled the drawing of a weapon. So the police officer did what he had to do to protect himself so he could come home at night. He drew down and he pulled the trigger. It is tragic. It is very tragic. But realistically, there's no way to legislate this so that it will never happen again. All you are doing is creating a shadow of a doubt for a police officer, which could cost him his life. Because again, like I said, criminals are not stupid. Well, some of them are, but basically criminals are not stupid. They are going to see this. They're going to see this law and go, okay, good. If I paint my real gun a different color, then the police officer will not think it's a real gun and will hesitate, and I will have the opportunity to shoot that police officer. Honestly, it's better if our guns do look real. For the simple fact, it's safer for the officer. That way he treats every gun like it's real. It is up to the owner of these airsoft weapons, the imitation firearms, to know better than to point it at a police officer. Okay? The other thing is, there are a lot of businesses now that are gearing themselves towards airsoft. You know, up where I live in Sacramento, there's a couple places. There's Airsoft Battlegrounds. There's CQB City. There's a field out in Galt that are specifically airsoft places to where we can go out. We can do airsoft. We can do our tactical training. Those places would end up going out of business. Not to mention all the retailers. We have Airsoft Extreme up here in Sacramento. Plus there's 4 other locations for Airsoft Extreme. You have, you know, all kinds of other businesses. You know, Evike, I believe that they're located down in the Bay Area. You know, you're going to have all kinds of other businesses that are going to end up going out of business. People don't want to buy a pink gun. As it is, there's one company out there that makes a pink M4. You know what? The amount of pink M4 sold compared to the amount of black M4 sold, not even close. There's so many more black or tan M4 sold than that pink M4. The only reason for the pink one is to try and get girls into the sport. But nobody's gonna really want to buy, you know, a green gun. They're not gonna want to buy a pink gun. They're not gonna want to buy a red gun. Part of what we like about the sport is the fact that it is very realistic. And you, again, like I said, you have to be understanding enough to know that these are not toys. They need to be treated as weapons. As it is, you cannot be under 18 and buy one of these without parents' consent. Then it falls onto the parents. The parents have to teach their kids that these are potentially dangerous weapons. It can hurt. The other thing is, if these guns are painted green, blue, pink, purple, whatever, the parent is not going to look at it as being, okay, this is a weapon. They're going to look at it as, this is a toy and cannot hurt someone, so there's going to be actually less parental responsibility taken in these weapons. Bottom line, SB798, I understand exactly why they put it together. They want to prevent tragic incidents like what happened down in Los Angeles from happening again. Reality of it though, it is not, you cannot legislate this away. And all it's going to do is hurt business in the state of California. We're already cash-strapped as it is. We're already low enough ranked on business friendly in the state. Do we want to make it even more business unfriendly? Do we want to, you know, hurt California even more by passing legislation that is not going to do what they want it to do? We need to stop SB798 from passing. We need to call our legislators. We need to email them. We need to let them know we do not want this bill to pass. If we have enough support from our side, it will not continue on. basically, I urge everyone, sign the letters that are at Airsoft Battlegrounds, that are at Airsoft Extreme. I'm sure they're probably at CQB City. I'm sure they're out at Galt as well. We need to sign those letters. We need to sign the petitions. We need to contact our congressmen. We need to let them know we are not in support of Bill 798. The legislatures are there for the people of the people. They represent us. We need to let them know that we do not support this bill. Thank you very much. This has been Dan Pickle, aka SWAT, of Team Rebel Wolves.